This is the design I ended up going with. This little piece jutting out from the front. Of course, this could all change if I get this dozer that I keep talking about. Granted, I'm just going to drop the dozer part in this from now on until I get it. But for right now, this is what I'm thinking. This little piece jutting out on the front is just slightly below the feet, basically right at the feet. So if I want to actually if I wanted to actually extend this out a little bit and add a magnet to the feet, I could even use this part as an extension to actually make sure the feet are properly sat down, but I don't have any problems. But this is the design I came up with. I have the last two of my very powerful rare earth magnets on this thing. One embedded in this sheet of foam and one embedded in this sheet of foam. Those two magnets are enough to keep this little RC car attached to this thing and drive it around without any problems, and also it can fully pivot without any problems. I did add some stoppers to the bottom piece right here so those tires themselves don't actually pivot into the foam. They get incredibly close, but they don't pivot into the foam with the little stoppers. You can see the little stoppers right here if the camera will kindly autofocus, which it really won't. You can basically get the idea how it works. It's just little stoppers. And this simple little design right here is more than enough to get this thing to lug around and whatnot. But the same thing still persists with this RC car is I might still have a heat problem. I think having it being a pulling instead of a pushing relieves a bit of the stress that this car will take up when it's being driven. But I'm pretty certain this thing will still get very hot. I did remove the heat sink of the motor, which if I can pop this thing off, which it's being a bit of a pain because these rare earth magnets are crazy powerful. Yeah, there we go. I removed the heat sink. What I'm planning on doing is that if this actually works right, I'm gonna get some heat sinks off of gosh dang it, Amazon, and actually thermal glue the heat sinks to the motor, and these little, I believe what you call them, BECs, these little black little diode things right there that you see right in between where the motor and the foam is, that little thing. I'm gonna put heat sinks on those 4 bits too, that way so this thing can run relatively cool. And once I make sure this thing actually runs properly, I gotta figure out what type of battery system I'm going to use for this thing, because this little 500 watt lithium battery doesn't have the longevity I need out of this thing. I can get maybe like 15 minutes out of this thing before the battery pukes. So that's a decent runtime, but I want a longer runtime than this. Also, another thing I need to figure out is what type of lithium is this thing? Is this thing a 2-cell or a 3-cell with a little step down transformer to convert it down to 9.6? I don't know yet. I might actually contact Newbright themselves and actually show them what I'm doing with their RC car so they can actually help me out with the battery and whatnot. Oh yeah, and the reason why I'm not going outside right now to actually show this thing running around is because it is currently raining outside. And I don't want to get these things wet and destroyed. So for now, I'm just going to be on hold until the rain lets up. Alright, so it's nighttime again, but I got a little bit more work done. I got everything reinforced the way I want. I have this putting just a little bit of pressure down on the front and on the back, just enough to keep this thing on the ground. And also putting a little bit of pressure on there has helped this thing it's helping this thing be a lot more steerable. So pretty much now I'm just going to show what this thing drives like. I mean, it drives more or less the same like it did last time, but still. The only key difference is the actual driving force is in the front of the base instead of in the back. So I think doing it this way is a little bit more smarter. Granted, the skirt itself is not properly seated, so I gotta go and fix that. Give me a second. There we go. That should be properly seated now. And I got a freaking cobweb on my arm, which is annoying to say the least. Yep, it's seated now properly. Oh yeah, she turns significantly tighter now. And the tires are still able to slip, which is also another thing I want. So yeah, I think you pretty much get the general idea. I still have no idea how hot the motors get, but I'm going to drive it around off camera and just run it until it's dead and see how hot the battery and the motor is. But at least she's a lot more steerable, which is what I wanted. Now I just gotta make sure the battery and the motors don't get too hot.